Greetings, YouTube. I have a small amount of time to do recordings. You might be wondering, Prof, this is a little late for you. Well, I was on the KT1 call. Shout out to OnKid, who made one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. He made a video meme with so many people, including Brian Grant, Katie Candy, KT, me, Kabam Mike. I hope KT is able to play that in loop. It's one of those things that, like, you could be having a really terrible day, and then you view it, and all of a sudden you're just having a great day. Just a really good day. So you might be wondering, Prof, why are you on this really skinny, centered screen? Well, this is the official Marvel Casino of Champions Twitter account. And we covered on the channel a couple days ago just how shady it was. Kabam Jax made this really amazing forum post about how this was compensation for 8+ months of bugs and that he knows that the game is still not fixed completely, and these are all the areas that they were going to make improvements, and he thanked everybody for playing. And then Kabam used none of it in their official post getting people to download it. They made it sound like it was just like a gift because they loved us so much. It was like Kabam Santa coming back in June, which is ironic because they said Kabam Santa in June, and then the next day we actually saw Kabam Santa in June because that's what happened when it came to the greater gifting crystals making a return for the first time since December, since the holiday season. So, how do you get people to stop talking about how they marketed this? Well, how about showing off the new buffed champion? This mighty champion is getting a buff. Are you worthy? Thor Jane Foster. Now, I had asked this summer for Thor Jane Foster and Kamala Khan to be buffed. Kamala Khan was getting her own show. I've loved the show. I think it's been great. Of course, she hasn't received a buff, although somebody like my boy Sweeto will say, she doesn't need a buff. She's amazing without her. I was like, well, it's because you're amazing with her, buddy. You're amazing at the game. Good dude. But even though Thor Jane Foster does have some utility, I remember the Analyzer, I think, was the one that was talking about years ago how she was one of the best counters for Medusa, I believe. And I'm sure that's still true. But she deserves something worthy of being compared to OG Thor, who, by the way, isn't it going to be crazy ironic? Because if she was compared in a buff, let's assume, and it's a very dangerous assumption, that Kabam does a good job with this. Hit or miss, right? It could be like the Storm buff, or it could be like the Guillotine buff. It could be like the Storm buff, or it could be like the Deadpool X-Force buff. Maybe that's a more accurate, recent analogy. But let's assume she is actually really fun to play. We could live in a world, as an MCOC community, where Thor Jane Foster is way better than OG Thor. Even though the community has been asking for better buffs to the OG Avengers. People that, this is the reason why you download the game, right? A lot of people, they know Marvel from the MCU, especially the new generation of players. They want Iron Man. They want superior Iron Man, because he just sounds like he's better than Iron Man. They want OG Captain America. They want Black Widow. They want Thor, Doctor Strange. Kabam knows all of that, and yet they'll make Nick Fury, who, trust me, I love my Nick Fury, but if you're telling me on paper that Nick Fury should be way more powerful than any of those Avengers, it's laughable. It's disrespectful, really. And yet that's the reality of the situation. So, Thor Jane Foster finally gets justice. Are you excited? I will say this, as always, don't immediately rank her up unless you're somebody who just brings her in for synergies no matter what, and you know, because Deadpool X-Force I actually don't regret taking to rank 3, even though he's very disappointing other than the cool new animations, because I use him for the Restoration Kit synergy every day. And there have been a couple times in the Cavalier Event Quest where I've had several of my best champions knocked out, and it's either I have to use a level 1 revive, or Deadpool X-Force has to take down the last 8% of health of the boss. And guess what? Deadpool X-Force barely has taken down the health of the boss, and I keep thinking when I do that, if he was at rank 2 or especially rank 1, he would have been knocked out, and it would have cost me a revive because his health pool and his attack pool would have been much smaller. So that's my philosophy when it comes to rank ups. If somebody's really good and they get buffed and you want to use them, great. But only rank up the people that you're going to use for average summoners. Because you don't want to sacrifice a rank up gem especially, but even rank up materials regularly for champions that you're not going to use on defense, you're not going to use on battlegrounds, and you're certainly not going to use in main questing. It's just a good golden rule to have. So, finally, Thor Jane Foster gets justice. What do you think about it? Shout out to KT1 and Evizone for continuing to sponsor a really fun competition, and all of you who submitted the memes. They were really fun to watch. I'm surprised there weren't more grounded wisdom memes, but, missed opportunity, I guess. Oh, my brother's calling, so there you go.